had said to me, you got to get up here and make a lot of space. We call it Angry Bunny. And Catherine Krasovic taught me that, and it made my speaking so much freer. And I said to this guy, I said, hey, can you just show me your teeth? And he goes, eh. And I said, now just say anything. And he said, hello, hi, oh, that's fantastic. And so Catherine Krasovic, my voice teacher, helped this man's journey through health. And I was the conduit for that. Welcome to How Art Heals. I'm joined on this stage at Aspen by 3 people who live how art heals in a much more detailed and frankly effective way. Please join me in welcoming our panelists, who I'll introduce to you now. First, we have Jane Golden, who is the Executive Director of Mural Arts Philadelphia. Tiffany Ortiz is the Director of Early Childhood Development Programming at Carnegie Hall. And David Leventhal is the founding teacher and program director of Dance for PD, Parkinson's disease. So I just want to start basically, the setup, the word that is in the setup that I think it does the most sort of flashing is the word neuroarts. And we'll just to start to open it up. How do we think about what that term even means, neuroarts? Do any one of you want to take that?
Sure, for me it means the relationship between the brain and our ability to create, to make a mark, and to feel differently in some way. So for me there's an inherent connection, and sometimes it's really subtle and other times more explicit.
Yeah, and now what I'll do is start, because you went first. We didn't plan that. You went first. I'll loop over to David and just tell everybody in a sentence or two what it is that you do for a living.
So I teach and design and train teachers to teach people living with Parkinson's disease in the beautiful art form of dance.
So I work at Carnegie Hall. I'm within the early childhood, but we really think more broadly about how music can be transformational for human development and for creativity. So that starts with the early periods of life and for caregivers, but also spans the entire human lifespan. So we do work across, work with young children to teenagers to adults and beyond.
And so I run the Mural Arts program. So it's a community-based public art program that believes deeply and passionately that everyone everywhere should have access to art, that it's wonderful to have galleries and museums. Art does not belong exclusively behind those walls, and that art should permeate its way into people's lives. So we work in restorative justice, behavioral health, community development, and education, just making sure that everyone has access.
Yes, we applaud that. So to give everyone here a sense of what that means, we are going to go multimedia for just a few minutes. So we're going to spend about 5 minutes with each of our panelists, diving a little deeper into something that that y'all sent to me as demonstrative of the kind of work that you're doing, and then we can reflect on it and discuss it. We're starting with Jane, who's going to take us through some slides, actually, of some of the work, because I think to understand it, you have to see it.
Okay, so in Philly, we have 4,445 murals. Indoor, outdoor, big, little, so it's like everywhere. So
yeah, do we click it?
Okay, I can.
Oh, here.
Okay, all right.
I think if you actually press, you want me to do, I can be the clicker if you want.
Okay, you can be the clicker. And how much time do I have? So I like,
yeah, like 3 or 4 minutes.
3 or 4 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about our Porch Light program. And I'm like, da, 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 da. It's our partnership with the Department of Behavioral Health. A long time ago, there was this visionary commissioner. He said, you know, we send people into neighborhoods and we say, hi, we're from DBH, we're here to help you. And people go, no, we've received no services or bad services, go away. And he heard me give a presentation. He goes, I would like to work with mural arts. And so he he assigned us really complicated situations. We're not art therapists, but in partnership with therapists and clinicians, we found that we could make a difference, that people started to open up about the services they needed. And the provider agencies started to open up, oh, art could mean something. So this was our first assignment. It was a methadone clinic in a part of North Philadelphia, and everyone in the neighborhood hated the clinic. The clinic did not like the neighborhood. It was just tension. And so this was our assignment. So we took over the basement. We turned it into an artist studio. We started seeing people before group therapy. The therapist said, you're onto something. So we went, really? And so then we got a little grant to work with the Yale Medical School, and they evaluated this, and they said the data is really promising. And so then we said, okay, we're going to do a huge mural on the side of this building. So we structured all these paint days with people from the neighborhood, people in the clinic, and everyone started painting. And then one day I made a site visit there, and there was a long line to get in this room, and I assumed it was like for coffee. So I said, oh, this is the line for coffee. They said, coffee? This is the line to get into the art room. I said, oh my goodness, this is great. And so then we got more data, and then we applied to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. We got this local partnership grant, which was like so shocking. I was so excited. And then we matched that and formed our Porch Light program. We said Porch Light because a porch light it's luminous and warm and welcoming, and that's Porch Light, where we work with people struggling with substance use disorder, housing insecurity, a range of mental health issues, trauma, you name it, we're there, we're present. Okay, next. And here, oh, this one I just love. We gave looms to shelters all over the city, and people were weaving stories of their lives. And then we had a tapestry that traveled throughout the city. We had it exhibited at the Free Library. And then this we gave people cameras, and there are all these beautiful portraits. You'll have to come to Philly, take a tour. And there are all these wonderful photographs and mosaics and paint. And it was just really uplifting, and it gave people just a sense of respect and dignity and hope. Next. And this one, oh, I love this one, because you see this from the Amtrak train. I always think about visibility. I'm a wall hunter, so I'm always looking for good. I haven't seen too many in Aspen, but I am looking. So this is like Rise and Shine. So believe it or not, like hundreds of people worked on this, and every person made a square. And I'm talking about people who are really struggling, who feel like their lives are so closed in. I mean, I think that this former commissioner said, people feel that there's a darkness surrounding them and there's not going to be light. And I'm such a believer that, when it comes to sort of intractable, complex problems that cities face, our traditional interventions, which is the point of this panel, fail us. And so we have to hold on to the arts and creativity to crack the code, and that's what we see. So one side says shine, the other side says rise. I love this one. It's called Resilience. And it's in the heart of Kensington, a part of Philadelphia that's really been decimated by the heroin and opioid crisis. And again, we believe in a very collaborative method of how we do all our work across the organization. But this was created by people who are really struggling. And some of them at the dedication came up and said that through this intensive process of working together, they considered recovery. And this one is quite beautiful. And we sometimes work with veterans struggling with PTSD. And this was really about finding home, which meant finding the light within you. And so I love the fact that you can see the camouflage in the bushes. And then there's a social service agency that works with vets, and people feel it's really warm and welcoming and important. And you can see that in the background. And this one is, we have a program that's part of our Porch Light program called Color Me Back. It's our same-day work program. A long time ago, when there was a spike in people struggling with homelessness, we got this idea, we saw that there were same-day work programs in different cities, but it was all around picking up litter. And we're like, we can do better. We can have it around public art making. So we went to the city. We're part city, part not city. But the city was like, we're not interested. And I'm like, you should be interested. So then we got a grant, and then we just did it. Because if people say no, then we, of course, go around them and go up, and you know what I mean. You just have to get it done. So in Color Me Back, same-day work program, we provide social services, all kinds of trainings, low barrier employment, and people stay with us for a longer period of time, and then they move on to a different level, and people then move on to different jobs, or they stay with us at Mural Arts. And what we've seen since April of 2019, we've worked with 2,500 people. Like, honestly, it's about $150,000 in wages distributed every year. And now we're building a step 2, and we're going to scale it across the city. It's phenomenal. And but everyone designs these triangles. Oh, could you go back for a minute? I'll be back.
I think so.
And then Thank you. And then, so everyone gets to contribute. So this is public art that is really created in part by the citizens of the city. It's not art that drops down and people go, what's that? So it's real, and then we're doing greening efforts as well. It's like it's just beautiful and exciting. You see how excited, I just wake up every day excited. Okay, and this is we also work with new immigrant communities. So here we work in Northeast Philadelphia with women from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and more recently Ukraine. In South Philly, we have a place called Southeast by Southeast, and there we work with people from Mexico and Southeast Asia. But here in the Northeast, we did this beautiful new mural on this space where there are all kinds of social service agencies, a lot working with immigrant populations, and it's been such a struggle and so difficult, and this mural is like a beacon. And I love this photograph with the rainbow because it just says so much about the power of art. And this is a peace park, and we work with artists who melt down guns, and they build different things. They build benches, they build furniture, they create jewelry, and this is in an area that there's been so much violence. And people are like, no, we are going to reclaim space. And that's the other thing about murals. We see individual impact, and the communal impact is astounding. So this peace park is next to a faith-based organization and quite inspiring.
Yeah, it really is.
And this one is just a really important project. Many, many years ago, we did a project with people struggling with suicide ideation and people who've lost loved ones to suicide. And it was a beautiful mural. It created a community. And then these developers, they built in front of it. Well, first they said they were going to build in front of it. We're like, no way, you could not do that. So we went to zoning hearings. We stood up. We said, you can't do this. We made them feel hugely guilty because we're good at that. Brought in hundreds of people. And so they said, okay, we're going to settle with you for $100,000. I'm like, done. First they said $2,000. I'm like, not done. So then $100,000. And so then we did this. It's on the site of St. Christopher's Hospital. It's beautiful. It's 8 stories tall. We worked with a giant community of hundreds of people. And the wonderful thing that happened is that people formed a bond with each other, and they are often doing advocacy work for critical issues, facing this community. And I love the fact that some of the work we do stays connected with us, and some of it just grows on its own. And I love the word generative, and I think our work is.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Clearly, the amount of energy it takes to do that is in you. It's in you.
It is.
But I just was imagining the counterfactual. The counterfactual is the what if the other way, right? And imagine those spaces without that beauty. It's just tragic. So you've actually, in a way, like avoided a tragedy or responded to one. And as a musician, I think about this in sonic ways. One of the great examples of this is really good theme music when you listen to public radio. One of my favorite shows for many years was the show they used to do, I think it was Wisconsin Public Radio, called To the Best of Our Knowledge. And I realized it's because I was listening carefully, because the first 20 seconds of the theme music is absolutely stunning. And the programming was good, but my mind was cued in. So we comport ourselves by our surroundings. And one of the murals that I think that you didn't show that was so beautiful was actually sort of almost like a life of a person. And it shows them coming from a neighborhood and becoming, I think, a scientist. And that people will walk by every day and see that, and that's a role model. That's a model to have. And again, the counterfactual is nothing or something far worse. So the transformation of lives through this is so just very impactful. Thank you. We're going to come back. Tiffany is next. Tiffany Ortiz is next, I believe, right? Do we have the order correct? I do. Good. Tiffany we're gonna share a video, and then we'll briefly discuss that. Or do you want to set it up?
If I can give a little bit of
context.
context.
Please set it up,
yeah.
yes.
So my area of work is thinking about music to empower families and young children, but it all stemmed from work that we were doing for many, many years out in the community, concerts, songwriting programs in healthcare spaces. And one year, this is about 15 years ago, the healthcare staff approached us and said, well, we're working with young teenage mothers who are experiencing high levels of stress, and that's impacting their ability to bond and connect with their babies. What can we do collectively to support this? And we started to ask questions and brainstorm with the healthcare staff, and we developed the Lullaby Project 15 years ago. And the Lullaby Project invites families, caregivers, parents to write bespoke lullabies for their children, expressing their hopes, their dreams, their wishes, sharing their culture, their wisdom, their language, all in the form of a song. And I often think of the musicians in this program as musical doulas because they're really centering the parents and helping them usher this song along to impart with their child, to bond, to use infant-directed singing with their child, to really impact that connection, but also to reduce stress levels for the families and support their overall well-being. In 2024, it was declared a national health crisis, that parental mental health and well-being needed collective support. And so we, as a cultural institution, are leaning into this and thinking about the role that music can play in supporting that. We've seen tremendous impacts on music in supporting families across healthcare, in social service organizations, in prisons, in refugee camps, and now we support over 70 organizations around the world who are adapting this and making it culturally responsive to the needs of their families and their communities around the world. And so we think about these very intimate, tender moments that families can create, these songs that can get passed on generation to generation and can be transported wherever families might move. So that's the magic that music can have. And so this is a testimonial from one of our parents who participated at a maternal mental health clinic in New York City.
Writing my lullaby ended up being a turning point in my pregnancy. I had spent the entire time feeling ill, anxious, and depressed. I couldn't believe I wasn't feeling any of the things a normal, expectant parent felt. Something must be wrong with me. But the songwriting session with John and Eleni was incredible. I was back. My creativity flowed. I was regarded as a co-creator, soon-to-be parent, but most of all, as myself. My husband and I played the song every night to Nico through my belly. I whispered the lyrics to him until the day he was born. And every day since, he's heard the song. It's the last part of our bedtime routine every night, and it calms him. The lyrics of Song for Nico echo, "I trust you." This process allowed me to find the words to share with Nico, but even more so with myself, a deep trust in the journey of parenthood, of growing, and of creating.
I trust you, you know what to do, and even if it's dark, you have the light coming through. Always remember that you can be tender, give and receive and lead with love. You can be open, you can be broken, you can be free, hold and be held.
And that is really just a small snippet,
Yeah,
thanks to
well-
Jeremy's editing work. A small snippet of the many thousands of stories that have come through a program like this, embedding lullaby into healthcare practices to support women with navigating perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, or supporting a caregiver in a prison who's looking to reconnect with their child or with their family on the outside, to immigrant and refugee families who can find a safe space to share their language and share their culture through these songs.
Thank you so much. David, let's transition over to a little media from your work. And why don't you set it up as well?
Sure, it's a little hard to speak after that. It was so beautiful, and as a parent, it really makes a deep connection. So the core of our programming is really the group experience, right? Bringing people living with Parkinson's and their care partners and families together to dance together, to learn the skills and craft and choreography that a dancer would learn, and really to transform everybody in that space into a dancer. When they're there for that hour and a quarter, we do not think of them as people with Parkinson's or as patients. They are demedicalized, they are destigmatized, they are welcomed as artists. And the idea is that they then walk through life with this identity, with this reminder that their humanity, their creativity, their sense of control and agency is still part of them, regardless of how much Parkinson starts to pull and tug away at that. No matter how much the medical framing of their condition tries to change their self-esteem and self-identity. So that said, one of the things that we're really excited about is when people take that identity or the skills that we're working on or just the joy of dance into their personal spaces. So I love this short clip from Capturing Grace, which is a documentary about our program, because it shows somebody in their own private space harnessing the joys and the benefits of dance as a battle against or a pushing away of everything that is Parkinson's. So I'd like you to meet Cindy.
What happens to me when my feet feel like glue and they're stuck on the floor? I sometimes cannot walk, but I can dance. If I can, I don't know, I can give you an example. Shall I start?
Yeah.
Well, for example, right now I'm off. You can see my hand is shaking. I have the tremor. And if I try to walk, I have a great deal of difficulty. I could walk a little bit, but if I pretend I'm dancing, I could go. And I don't have any problems. The music leads. In other words, it's not my brain telling me to take a step or to do this or do that. The music is leading me. So I'm like following this wonderful leader who's so mysterious and has such a lovely sound, and it's going to take me to some other place.
What is that other place?
Well, excuse me. It's a place where you're weightless. You know, your body is just flies. It doesn't tug at you, tug you and pull you and push you and, you know, have you in these knots where you can't move and you can't think and you're struggling and fighting. It just, you know, you go above that.
So from a healthcare context, right, we're thinking about Parkinson's as a full spectrum challenge, right? It affects every aspect of a person's life, from their motor skills all the way to their mood, their sense of social connection, sense of self, cognitive health. And so you need a full spectrum response. I have seen over the last 25 years of doing this work that dance is a full spectrum response. It really fits Parkinson's like a glove. If you were to go into a lab and create a modality of being that addressed all of the motor and non-motor elements of Parkinson's, it would come out looking a lot like dance. And the good news is that we have dance all over the world in many different forms, and all of those forms are incredibly beneficial for people with Parkinson's because all dance shares a DNA, which is about balance, coordination, musicality, storytelling, expressivity, creativity, connection. And so it doesn't matter whether you're doing hula or ballet or jazz dance in your living room, all of those things are supporting your journey through Parkinson's.
And what I think is just so interesting to watch as a physician is that Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurological disorder. Walking is not going to come back. It's not really possible in most cases, but apparently you can teach someone to walk through dance. So you can't, because these are stored clearly in different parts of our brains, and there are different programs that we are running. And the same is true with language. And I will tell a little off-color story to illustrate that. We very frequently, to assess people's cognition, we ask them, what's your name, and what is the date, and where are we, and also who's the president. And so I had a patient who I said, what's your name? And they're just sort of, not really giving me much. And where are we, and what date? I wasn't getting a lot. And I just for fun, I was like, and who's the president? And they go, effing Donald Trump. And I realized that information had emotion behind it for that particular individual that made it so that she had access to that information much more crisply. And so, okay, what if we put emotion behind facts? Then maybe she'll be able to tell me more things. So the brain is complicated, in case you haven't heard. But these modalities unlock potential for therapies that are truly groundbreaking in their possibilities. At this phase, I kind of just want to get these people talking to each other. I have written down that we do an open discussion here, and my prompt is go.
Well, I want to pick up on what you just said, because one of the studied elements of neuroplasticity, which I think is an important element of neuroarts, and also all of the work that we do. We may not see it in those terms waking up in the morning and say, I'm going to do neuroplasticity today. But essentially, we're all reframing how the brains of our constituents and contributors and viewers and listeners are wired, right, are firing. And one of the key elements is salience, which is how something is relevant, emotionally relevant to somebody. And I think in all of our work, we're creating artistic experiences where salience is front and center, right? It's not just I'm going to write something for therapy. You're making it resonant for the parents. You're creating this salience for communities to really speak to issues and paint issues that are valuable for them. And for us, it's musical connection, it's a community, it's telling stories through your body. So I'm curious about this idea of salience, because it is a studied aspect of neuroplasticity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like to think of the most neuroplastic brain, which is the brain of a child between the ages of 0 and 3. It's when about 80% of the brain develops. And so thinking about those early moments when you can introduce music, you can introduce art in so many rich forms to help that early development of a child, from the social emotional regulation to the motor development, et cetera. It helps to connect. And when I think about the whole family as an ecosystem, how we're fostering art to be used and cultivated and expressed across the family unit. And it just further supports that brain development in those early years and those salient memories. Because how many of you remember a song from your childhood? There's always some song there, whether it's a traditional lullaby or an early song from the radio. Whatever it is for you and your family, you can call on those early memories, and that really lives on in you, and maybe will trigger something that really sparks emotion.
And I'm thinking, it's interesting, since I just had this thought that, we have a program where we work in the state prison, and we've been doing that for about 20 years. And a lot of the people in the class are juvenile lifers, and they said when I first met them that their lives went dark at age 10. Mm-hmm. And because of the Supreme Court hearing their cases, agreeing to hear their cases, this is a while ago, again, many of them got out. And they credit mural arts, sort of more than I think they should, because I really credit them for sort of a reawakening, is how they explain it, being connected to art making and then to the community, and we bring in all kinds of speakers, and it becomes more like a think tank. Because when we bring in visitors, they're like, oh, I don't really feel like I'm in a prison. But there's something there that is going on where they literally felt their life go dark. And then, because the crime that they committed, it was like the first time they were in trouble, and then it's like, that's it. And this is like in Pennsylvania, life without parole, you're gonna die here. And suddenly, they end up in this art class. Many of them maybe liked art, or had no experience with art, and something was percolating in their brains. And the superintendent, he said to me, after about the first year of working there, he said, I'm tracking their behavior. And many of them had been in the special housing unit, in and out, and it like stopped. And something shifted there. So, and they became like the role models in the prison. And so there was an internal shift and a communal shift at the same time.
You said a keyword, tracking. Tracking. I think this is something that Ruth Katz said yesterday, which is that everything that we're doing here at Aspen Ideas is based and rooted in science, in knowledge, in data, in something concrete, which is even for these artsy types, that does land. And so when we were preparing for this, I was absolutely fascinated with some of the work that you've all either been a part of or just integrate into your practice, the research that says this works, this matters, this makes a difference. And people always assume that because I'm a musician and a physician that I do that research. I don't. I'm a population epi guy. So whenever I get a chance to talk to people who really spend their time, I'm all over it. And so I found everything you sent me to be fascinating, and I was hoping we could share it with everybody. And we'll spend a couple of minutes with each of you. I'll start with Tiffany. There's a document that Why Making Music Matters that I think you and your team at Carnegie developed, and it highlighted a number of research articles and just findings, including some of the things that might make sense. I think someone said you can't make a surgeon out of a 5-year-old, but actually fine motor is really how you start. There's people, video games or playing the cello, there's just different ways, and whatever works for that kid might be the reason why 30 years from now they're doing your appendectomy. So I did want to ask, just to maybe tell us some of the research that you draw on.
Yeah, Why Making Music Matters Now really points to music as a crucial part of early development, but also, again, for the family ecosystem. What we think of is music as a low-cost, high-impact, and very scalable form of art making. So it's something that people have been doing for centuries. It's something that we can call on, but how can we make that intentional to really have positive outcomes for families? We're really looking at the different ways that music can support early development, but again, also support stress, reduce chronic stress, support overall caregiver well-being. And we've done some research with evaluators on how the Lullaby Project, for example, can support parental well-being, looking at Seligman's positive frameworks around well-being, so looking at families' experiences pre- and post-lullaby, experiencing positive emotions, a sense of agency, sense of meaning-making, and connections to others. So we really see some marked differences in how families experience music pre and post. We're also engaging in a lot of really cool research right now at the University of Amsterdam, looking at not just qualitative impacts of music, but also quantitative, so biomarkers and how that's impacting young children in what we do is experiential music concerts for babies and toddlers, so 0 to 2. They're the missing cast members of the shows, and we are doing research to really understand what that does to the body and what that does to stress and bonding.
And I'll go over to David. In the Parkinson space, I was actually quite surprised to find that there are randomized clinical trials on this, right?
Yes.
Tell us more.
So dance is a really interesting art form because there's part of it that's about exercise, right? It is a physical activity. I mean, dancers are artists and athletes in the way that we train. And so you're taking in all of the modalities of exercise, which include strength training, balance, coordination, right? Then you're also working on expression, creativity, cognitive patterning and sequencing that you would do in a dance form you don't tend to do in an athletic form. So the research really tries to measure the spectrum of all of those benefits and those outcomes. So we see very strong support and evidence on the motor side. So things like gait improvement, balance improvement, reduction of tremor, increase in functional mobility, the things that you would expect for somebody who is doing serious dance training, which is what we do in our classes. But then you also see on the other end of the spectrum, reduction in depression. There's a great study that just came out of Toronto last summer that looked at both self-reported depression scales and compared them to brain imaging. And what they saw was that over the course of 8 months of dance for PD activity, the overstimulation of the part of the brain that's partly responsible for depression was reduced. So it's basically quieting that part that's implicated in depression. And that's really interesting to see that sort of connection between what's reported and what's actually happening in the brain. We also see report increase in quality of life, increase in certain cognitive functions, things like executive function, which is one of the things that starts to be more difficult in Parkinson's, difficulty making decisions, difficulty interpreting situations, and also episodic memory, which is particularly interesting to me because all of life is kind of remembering patterns that you don't really have to think about. If I said, hey, everybody go out and get a cup of coffee, you wouldn't really think about your choreography of getting up from the chair, walking to the back, coming back. But in Parkinson's, that automaticity is less reliable. So in a dance setting, by working on patterns and sequencing, we can really help support the reestablishment of that patterning, of that episodic memory that can be useful, of course, in a dance setting, but also, for example, navigating life, navigating to the bathroom in the middle of the night, knowing where you have to go, how many steps you're taking. So I think it's, all of that is part of the research. We're really fortunate right now, and thanks partly to the support of the Loriam Tisch Illumination Fund for supporting this project. Rick Lefglass is here, the executive director, but we're actually starting to look at the mechanisms for why dance is beneficial. We know that it's beneficial, we see those outcomes, but really understanding more about what's happening in the brain, so using fMRI pre and post a 12-week dance intervention to start to see what are the changes that happen as a result of participating in Dance for PD. And that's something we're really interested in understanding because a big part of that is music. Musical entrainment, musical integration. What music does in the brain is integrates parts that don't normally communicate together. And because dance is physicalized music, we're particularly interested in that, the effect of a sort of musicalized physicality in our dancers.
Jane, you do some work with a scholar named Anjan Chatterjee, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I am a huge fan of collaborations that are truly collaborative, meaning that the overlapping circles don't have a ton, and so that there's such the maximal amount of expertise from two different spheres or multiple that can be brought to bear. It strikes me that collaboration is a good example of that.
That's right, and it's a new collaboration, to be honest. I mean, we have the Yale School of Medicine, a group there studied our Porch Light program over 4 years and found really interesting changes, more in the community than in individuals, and that was a long time ago. Then more recently, we had another evaluation looking at the impact on individuals, and then Anjan comes along with the team, and they've been looking at murals for 4 years. And what they found was really I guess I didn't know what they would find, but he was looking at the impact on wellness and how we define that and how people, like you could say, well, murals make the neighborhood look better. There's so many things they do around civic enhancement, but how do they make a person feel? I mean, what, like emotionally, think about awe, inspiration, joy. And he was able to, there's so many assets for them to study in Philadelphia. It's like a gold mine. And so when he presented on the research, it was just delightful for us to hear that. And it gives us there's so much potential for us moving forward. And at the same time, another colleague looked at murals as a form of crime reduction. And they looked at 500 murals in the city, and they were able to really do look at it statistically, and they could see crime going down in these areas. Now, was it just the mural? I would posit that the mural isn't there in isolation. It's the community that is built around it. It's in tapping into other needs people have where we can bring in city resources. So there's this whole mountain of activity that goes into every single project we do that makes people feel this incredible, and he saw this too, sense of ownership about the work. When murals go away in Philadelphia, people say they feel like their lives are being erased. I mean, it's huge, and there's a demand. We have a waiting list of 1,000 people who want work. I think that psychologically says it all, what murals are. They go far beyond beautification.
Thank you for your very brief summaries there. There's David, yeah.
I just want to say one thing that I think affects all of us is that the idea of research is not just to understand what we want to highlight in our work, but to really help the arts and health field scale up, so that these programs are not just a nice to have, a beautiful adjunct to traditional healthcare, but actually rigorous, available, supported community health initiatives that are available all over the country. And that's really important. And research can help us get there.
Right, and I just want to say, when Yale started working with us, it was like a dose of art at social service agencies. So how much art will people get till they can actually see some change? And I would say that moving forward, our Color Me Back program shows that that is really effective.
It's so interesting because when you look around on funding and getting support, people really want to have this like very concrete outcome metric. And a good research question is something you don't know the answer to. And sometimes I feel like I'm reading these, I'm like, yeah, of course tango is going to make Parkinson's better. It's going to do all these things we know about neural networks. But I think that sometimes there is a sense that you can use research partially to learn, and also partially just to make the case. And I think that, but what I'll say is, the cost effectiveness here is massively impressive. A new molecule made by some pharmaceutical company could cost millions of dollars to maintain, but you might get the same outcome from your programs, which, $1 million grant will be huge. But one patient, $1 million just for that molecule. And so these are cost-effective modalities that save us money. They actually enhance outcomes. And it just, to me, it's not this like cute idea. It's actually so important that we leverage what, quite frankly, a wealthy society has at its disposal, which is a multidisciplinary approach to things. It's not necessarily the best technology. It's leveraging everything to be cost effective. And that's what I find so interesting when I was going through this. We're coming on time. David's going to do one. Tiffany, you have something, you look like you have something to say.
I do. I just want to say that we have to be careful, especially when we're working with vulnerable populations, how research is facilitated
100%.
and conducted. And I think facilitating arts programming can create a platform for collaborative research with the participants to also understand what this means for them and what they want to see for themselves and for their community. And I think we're all approaching it in that sensitive way, but research is one part of the spoke. I think also moving hearts and minds through the stories and through, your beautiful images and your videos, that's going to help paint the holistic picture of how this work can impact families and can continue to scale and support at a greater scale.
And the other thing I just want to say is that, so for our reentry program, we have a 6% recidivism rate. Why is it low? Why is it so low? And I think then that hopefully will illuminate people to think, what kind of programs should we be offering? Because often in our society, we're okay with mediocrity, and it's not okay.
But I think it's just another wonderful example of how you make the case for whoever your audience is. It might be a science audience, it might be an arts audience, it might be a social work audience, city planning audience. You hone your message to get this point across. It's so important. We are going to learn something together for a couple of minutes through David.
So we're going to do a very short experiment. It's not an experiment. It's a participatory dance. But we're going to start.
I don't dance. I just want to say.
We're going to start with something that you might do in a physical therapy session or an exercise session, just mobilizing the wrists, maybe turning them side to side and rotating. And maybe since we've been sitting a little while, taking a moment to stretch. Okay. So we have a very basic stretch sequence here, but now we're going to apply the layers of artistry to that. So the first thing I want to talk about is imagery. I want you to imagine that instead of just flexing your wrist, you're diving into water. Perhaps your hands are dolphins, and you're taking a moment to dive into the beautiful Pacific Ocean. And then you're going to offer a gift to somebody next to you or across from you. So instead of just flipping your hands, you now have another purpose, another meaning. And let's take those stretches and imagine that you're standing at the beautiful Metropolitan Opera House and reaching out to the top balcony and the middle balcony and down all the way to the orchestra, and then you're honoring all of the people who have come to see you perform. And then, so we have imagery, we have some sequencing, we've created a movement sentence. We're going to put all that together, and now we're going to add this special sauce, which is music. Try it with me. Dip, give, come back. Dip, dip, offer, come back. Reach. See all of those levels? A little honoring and a celebration. Again, dolphin, dolphin, offer that gift. This time, offer that gift to somebody next to you. Hey, good. Reach, 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 soar up, and offering your gratitude. So I'm often asked, so what is the difference between dance and exercise, right? And I think in 2 minutes you saw how we transform kind of everyday movement or even a sort of therapeutic movement into something more. The layers of imagery, of sequencing, of music, of connection start to influence our movement. And when we're talking about a population that often has difficulty motivating to go out and get moving, you know, we know that movement is medicine in Parkinson's. The idea of salience, the idea of emotional connection and storytelling through the body is one of those things that can motivate people off of the couch and into a group movement experience that actually benefits their condition and their trajectory.
I want to open up, we have just a few minutes for questions. Wow, okay, I said if they didn't have questions, I would vamp some, but apparently not a problem. I saw yours first. Oh, a microphone. By the way, this sentence that I'm uttering right now lasts 5 seconds. A good question is about 10 to 15 seconds.
First of all, God bless you all. What seems common in all of your work is you relate to people as their gifts, like what they could bring, not their problem.
Yes.
Could you say more about that?
That was a beautiful example of a 15-second question.
And you said just one of us should answer. So, well, I think that is the wonder of the work, is to see all the assets that people have. Back in the day, I worked with graffiti writers, and I got to see their incredible talent and genius that had gone unrecognized, because society is just not fair. If you said something about people who have the ability, have all kinds of programs and teachers, and the graffiti writers were there making a mark on walls, expressing themselves in a way that was really fascinating, but the judgment against them was deep. And yet, in spite of all of that, they were able to create. And so I think it's up to us to see the glass half full. That is our responsibility. It's a moral imperative.
Someone in the back, yes. Oh, wait for the microphone while I do that. We should have time for a couple of more, too.
I'm just coming to this session from an earlier session about how we can use advanced AI to find new treatments, which was really amazing. But this is really great. The problem is we have a whole medical system that is moving people toward paid stuff. And it's the opportunity and the challenge that this stuff is free and available to everybody. How can we use the existing infrastructures to steer people away from really expensive stuff and stuff like this that is so intuitive and really works?
One thing I'll just say is that your insurance covers a lot of things. It should absolutely cover this kind of thing.
Yeah. And I will say we're starting to see some pilots of that. So, for example, Kaiser Permanente underwrites dance for Parkinson's classes in San Francisco. We have a relationship with United Healthcare where we provide online classes as part of their retiree solutions portfolio. So it is starting to happen. I have a feeling that the model that's going to work is insurance companies just actually paying artists to facilitate this stuff rather than a reimbursement model. That's what we're seeing so far, because it's a lot easier and it can happen at scale. But the per person cost of this stuff is so incredibly affordable for insurance companies compared to all other treatments, and there's an evidence basis for it. It actually works. Your question, the key word here is possibility, not limitation. So the dance that you just learned is actually an excerpt from a dance by Mark Morris, a choreographer. So we're bringing people in to learn actual dances. That pushes all of the questions about limitation and what you can't do away and says, the world is open to you. You can do anything you want.
We have time for 2 more. I saw your hand. Okay, you want to?
Okay, I'll take it.
And then this gentleman here, you'll be our last. Okay.
Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. I found my people. I'm glad I came to this session
Yeah.
today. As someone born in Miami, Florida, I also recognize that there are just certain things, like Ms. Golden, you touched on this, there are certain things that we have to understand. There are barriers. How do we take someone that is a single mom and put her in that music writing class? How do we eliminate those barriers and those stigmas? And just as a real life anecdote, my father, he's a Vietnam War veteran, but he tells me stories about his past, and as he's getting older, he ruminates on the past, but we connect through music. In the work that I do, I connect and tell people stories through evidence-based research, but also humanizing those statistics. How do we get those people that are needing to have their basic needs met? How do we get them up to that pyramid of self-actualization? There's so many barriers there that I'm trying to close the gap on, but I'm interested to hear what are you doing in the field through funding, policy writing, or changing.
Or just logistics of the barriers.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just say, yeah, there are logistical barriers. Music is not going to solve hunger and shelter. However, if we are able to meet families where they are, understand their basic schedules, we're going to clinics, we're going to shelters, we're going to spaces where families are and meeting them where they are, however that needs to happen. So flexibility in how we do this work is also really important. We cannot fixate on one specific model. We have to be open to really adapting our programs, being able to alter them, be flexible with them, and to meet families, whoever our participants are, where they are. And so when we're scaling this work too, we're also thinking about what different communities can do with programs, not just in the healthcare space. You know, it might be a social worker, it might be a healthcare worker, but maybe it's your local teacher. Maybe it's your local strong community voice who is part of the mix in helping to share information and helping to get people involved and excited to participate. So it really takes a community. It's rooted in human relationships and fortifying and building off of those human relationships to be able to come together to make this work happen in flexible ways.
Last question.
I could have a million questions, but I'm going to ask one. One thing that, because I know bits and pieces of everyone's programs, each of you has taken your programs and scaled it geographically. And I think as an audience and who are coming from all over the country, how can someone plug in to learn about what's happening in their community? Jane, the training manual that you did, David, the teaching and teaching artists that you've done and curriculum. So, Lullaby Project I'm talking too much. That's the connection. I'm sort of wondering, how do people plug in?
And scale this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds, we have a really robust teacher training program for any dance instructor around the world who wants to do this work. We have a pretty robust, comprehensive training program. We have programs in 500 communities around the world, 30 countries around the world, that are based on the model that we started in Brooklyn. So that scaling is happening, and it happens through training and through building partnerships between those dance artists and the Parkinson's community and the medical community as well.
Similarly, we have resources that we share at no cost. We provide ongoing consultation, artist training, and development for organizations who are trying to bring this work to their own communities. So if you'd like to find out more, please find me after the session and I can give you more information.
Yeah, and on our website, if you go to research and learning, we've got lots of manuals and information that's been developed over the years. We've worked with cities across the country and around the United States, and we really urge people in other places to, think about an artist, a funder, community, and government, and how do you bring together a team so that you don't do a mural, but you're able to create systemic change over time.
I'm going to close this wonderful session with where I started a month ago or something like that, when Aspen asked me to have these individuals up here to discuss how art heals. And they wrote, somebody really smart, wrote the following paragraph. Rigorous research has sharpened our understanding of how art benefits both the body and the mind. Dance helps people with Parkinson's disease regain control over their movements. Music promotes childhood development and strengthens parent-child bonds, and collaborative mural projects support behavioral health. Building on a compelling body of science, the growing field of neuroarts shows how engaging with art in its many forms measurably changes the brain. Researchers, clinicians, artists, technology innovators, and policymakers are joined in a shared effort to translate new evidence into practices that harness art's therapeutic potential. And thank you to David Leventhal, Tiffany Ortiz, and Jane Golden. We know why. Thank you. And I'm doing a panel at 1:20 p.m. in the East Tent with the Brothers Lazur called Sing Out Together. These guys are amazing. Come watch me play with them.
Take the A train to go to Sugar Hill way up in Harlem. If you miss that A train, you'll find you missed the quickest way to Harlem. Hurry, get on board, it's coming. Listen to those rails a thrumming. On board, get on the A train. Soon